0600 hours. All preparations are complete for our flight northward, and we are airborne with full fuel tanks at 0610 hours. 0620 hours. Fuel mixture on starboard engine seems too rich. Adjustment made and Pratt & Whitney's are running smoothly. Radio check with base camp. All is well and radio reception is normal. 0815 hours. Radio check with base camp. Situation normal. 0830 hours. Turbulence again. Increase altitude 2,100 feet. Smooth flight condition. 0910 hours. Vast ice and snow below. Note coloration of a yellowish nature and dispersed in a linear pattern. Altering course for better examination of this color pattern below. Note reddish or purple color also. 0910 hours. Both magnetic and gyro compasses beginning to gyrate and wobble. We are unable to hold our heading by instrumentation. Take bearing with sun compass, yet all seems well. The controls are seemingly slow to respond and have sluggish quality, but there is no indication of icing. In the distance is what appears to be mountains. 29 minutes elapsed flight time from the first sighting of the mountains. It is no illusion. They are mountains and are consisting of a small range that I have never seen before. We are crossing over the small mountain range and still proceeding northward as best as can be ascertained. Beyond the mountain range is what appears to be a valley with a small river or stream running through the center portion. There should be no green valley below. Something is definitely wrong and abnormal here. We should be over ice and snow. To the port side are great forests growing on the mountain slopes. Our navigation instruments are still spinning. The gyroscope is oscillating back and forth. I alter altitude to 1,400 feet and execute a sharp turn to better examine the valley below. It is green with either moss or a type of knit grass. The light here seems different. I cannot see the sun anymore. We make another left turn and we spot what seems to be a large animal of some kind below us. It appears to be an elephant. No, it looks more like a mammoth. This is incredible. Yet there it is. Decrease altitude to 1,000 feet and take binoculars to better examine the animal. It is confirmed. It is definitely a mammoth-like animal. Report this to base camp. Encountering more rolling green hills now. The external temperature indicator reads 74 degrees Fahrenheit. Continuing on our heading, navigation instruments seem normal. I am puzzled over their actions. Attempting to contact base camp. Radio is not functioning. Countryside below is more level and normal, if I may use that word. Ahead we spot what seems to be a city. This is impossible. Aircraft seems light and oddly buoyant. The controls refuse to respond. My God. Off our port and starboard wings are a strange type of aircraft, closing rapidly alongside. They are dish-shaped and have a radiant quality. They are close enough now to see the markings on them. It's a type of swastika. This is fantastic. Where are we? What has happened? I tug at the controls again. They will not respond. We are caught in an invisible vice grip of some type. Our radio crackles and a voice comes through in English with what is perhaps a slight Nordic or Germanic accent. The message is, "Welcome, Admiral, to our domain. We shall land you in exactly 7 minutes. Relax, Admiral. You are in good hands." I note the engines of our plane have stopped running. The aircraft is under some strange control and is now turning itself. The controls are useless. Another radio message received. We begin the landing process now, and in moments the plane shudders slightly and begins a descent as though caught in some great unseen elevator. The downward motion is negligible, and we touch down with only a slight jolt. 1145 hours. I am making a hasty last entry in the flight log. Several men are approaching on foot toward our aircraft. They are tall with blonde hair. In the distance is a large shimmering city pulsating with rainbow hues of color. I do not know what is going to happen now, but I see no signs of weapons on those approaching. I hear now a voice ordering me by name to open the cargo door. I comply. From this point I write all the following events here from memory. It defies the imagination. It would seem all but madness if it had not happened. The radio man and I are taken from the aircraft and we are received in a most cordial manner. We were then boarded on a small platform-like conveyance with no wheels. It moves us toward the glowing city with great swiftness. As we approach, the city seems to be made of a crystal material. Soon we arrive at a large building that is a type I have never seen before. It appears to be right out of the design board of Frank Lloyd Wright, or perhaps more correctly, out of a Buck Rogers setting. We are given some type of warm beverage, which tasted like nothing I have ever savored before. It is delicious. After about 10 minutes, 2 of our wondrous appearing hosts come to our quarters and announce that I am to accompany them. I have no choice but to comply. I leave my radio man behind and we walk a short distance and enter into what seems to be an elevator. We descend downward for some moments. The machine stops and the door lifts suddenly upward. We then proceed down a long hallway that is lit by a rose-colored light emanating from the very walls themselves. One of the beings motions for us to stop before a great door. Over the door is an inscription that I cannot read. The great door slides noiselessly open and I am beckoned to enter. One of my hosts speaks. "Have no fear, Admiral. You are to have an audience with the master." I step inside and my eyes adjust to the beautiful coloration that seems to be filling the room completely. Then I begin to see my surroundings. What greeted my eyes is the most beautiful sight of an entire existence. It is in fact too beautiful and wondrous to describe. It is exquisite and delicate. I do not think there exists a human term that can describe it in any detail with justice. My thoughts are interrupted in a cordial manner by a warm, rich voice of melodious quality. "I bid you welcome to our domain, Admiral." I see a man with delicate features and with the etching of years upon his face. He is seated at a long table. He motions me to sit down in one of the chairs. After I am seated, he places his fingertips together and smiles. He speaks softly again and conveys the following. "We have let you enter here because you are of noble character and well known on the surface world, Admiral." Surface world. I half gasped under my breath. "Yes," the master replies with a smile. "You are in the domain of the Ariani, the inner world of Earth. We shall not long delay your mission, and you will be safely escorted back to the surface and for a distance beyond. But now, Admiral, I shall tell you why you have been summoned here. Our interest rightly begins just after your race exploded the first atomic bombs over Hiroshima and Nagasaki, Japan. It was at that alarming time we sent our flying machines, the Flugerads, to your surface world to investigate what your race had done. That is of course past history now, my dear Admiral, but I must continue on. You see, we have never interfered before in your race's wars and barbarity, but now we must, for you have learned to tamper with a certain power that is not for man, namely, that of atomic energy. Our emissaries have already delivered messages to the powers of your world, and yet they do not heed. Now you have been chosen to be witness here that our world does exist. You see, our culture and science is many thousands of years beyond your race, Admiral." I interrupted. "But what does this have to do with me, sir?" The master's eyes seemed to penetrate deeply into my mind, and after studying me for a few moments he replied, "Your race has reached the point of no return, for there are those among you who would destroy your very world rather than relinquish their power as they know it. I nodded, and the master continued. In 1945 and afterward, we tried to contact your race, but our efforts were met with hostility, and our Flugelrads were fired upon. Yes, even pursued with malice and animosity by your fighter planes. So now, I say to you, my son, there is a great storm gathering in your world, a black fury that will not spend itself for many years. There will be no answer in your arms. There will be no safety in your science. It may rage on until every flower of your culture is trampled, and all human things are leveled in vast chaos. Your recent war was only a prelude of what is yet to come for your race. We here see it more clearly with each hour. Do you say I am mistaken? No, I answer. It happened once before. The Dark Ages came, and they lasted for more than 500 years. Yes, my son, replied the master. The Dark Ages that will come now for your race will cover the earth like a pall. But I believe that some of your race will live through the storm. Beyond that, I cannot say. We see at a great distance a new world stirring from the ruins of your race, seeking its lost and legendary treasures. And they will be here, my son, safe in our keeping. When that time arrives, we shall come forward again to help you revive your culture and your race. Perhaps by then, you will have learned the futility of war and its strife, and after that time, certain of your culture and science will be returned for your race to begin anew. You, my son, are to return to the surface world with this message. With these closing words, our meeting seemed at an end. I stood for a moment as in a dream, but yet, I knew this was reality, and for some strange reason, I bowed slightly, either out of respect or humility, I do not know which. Suddenly, I was again aware that the two beautiful hosts who had brought me here were again at my side. This way, Admiral, mentioned one. I turned once more, before leaving, and looked back toward the master. A gentle smile was etched on his delicate and ancient face. Farewell, my son, he spoke. Then he gestured with a lovely slender hand a motion of peace, and our meeting was truly ended. Quickly, we walked back through the great door of the master's chamber, and once again entered into the elevator. The door slid silently downward, and we were once again going upward. One of my hosts spoke again. We must now make haste, Admiral, as the master desires to delay you no longer on your scheduled timetable, and you must return with his message to your race. I said nothing. All of this was almost beyond belief, and once again my thoughts were interrupted as we stopped. I entered the room and was again with my radio man. He had an anxious expression on his face. As I approached, I said, "It is all right, Howie." The two beings motioned us toward the awaiting conveyance. We boarded and soon arrived back at the aircraft. The engines were idling, and we boarded immediately. The whole atmosphere seemed charged now with a certain air of urgency. After the cargo door was closed, the aircraft was immediately lifted by that unseen force until we reached an altitude of 2,700. Two of the aircraft were alongside for some distance, guiding us on our return way. I must state here, the airspeed indicator registered no reading, yet we were moving along at a very rapid rate. Entry flight log continues. 0215 hours. A radio message comes through. "We are leaving you now, Admiral. Your controls are free. Auf Wiedersehen." We watched for a moment as the Flugelrads disappeared into the pale blue sky. The aircraft suddenly felt as though caught in a sharp downdraft for a moment. We quickly recovered her control. We do not speak for some time. Each man has his thoughts. We are again over the vast areas of ice and snow, approximately 27 minutes from base camp. We radio them, they respond. We report all conditions normal. Base camp expresses relief at our re-established contact. We land smoothly at base camp. I have a mission. End log entries. March 11th, 1947. I have just attended a staff meeting at the Pentagon. I have stated fully my discovery and the message from the master. All is duly recorded. The president has been advised. I am now detained for several hours, interviewed by top security forces and a medical team. It was an ordeal. I am placed under strict control via the national security provisions of the United States of America. I am ordered to remain silent in regard to all that I have learned on behalf of humanity. Incredible. I am reminded that I am a military man and I must obey orders. I must write this diary in secrecy and obscurity. It concerns my Arctic flight of the 19th day of February in the year of 1947. There comes a time when the rationality of men must fade into insignificance, and one must accept the inevitability of the truth. I am not at liberty to disclose the following documentation at this writing. Perhaps it shall never see the light of public scrutiny, but I must do my duty and record here for all to one day read. These last few years elapsed since 1947 have not been kind. I now make my final entry in this singular diary. In closing, I must state that I have faithfully kept this matter secret as directed all these years. It has been completely against my values of moral right. Now I seem to sense the long night coming on, and this secret will not die with me, but as all truth shall, it will triumph, and so it shall. This can be the only hope for mankind. I have seen the truth, and it has quickened my spirit and has set me free. I have done my duty towards the monstrous military-industrial complex. Now, the long night begins to approach, but there shall be no end. Just as the long night of the Arctic ends, the brilliant sunshine of truth shall come again, and those who are of darkness shall fall in its light. For I have seen that land beyond the pole, that center of the great unknown. Admiral Richard Evelyn Byrd, United States Navy, December 24th, 1956.
I can settle down and be doing just fine till I hear an old freight rolling down the line. Then I hurry straight home and pack, and if I didn't go, I believe I'd blow my stack. I love you, baby, but you gotta understand, when the Lord made me, He made a rambling man. Some folks might say that I'm no good, that I wouldn't settle down if I could. But when that open road starts to calling me, there's something over the hill that I gotta see. Sometimes it's hard, but you gotta understand, when the Lord made me, He made a rambling man. I love to see the towns a-passing by, and to ride these rails beneath God's blue sky. Let me travel this land from the mountains to the sea, 'cause that's the life I believe He meant for me. And when I'm gone, and at my grave you stand, just say God's called home your rambling man.
Former Canadian Minister of Defense Paul Hellyer said that aliens not only exist, but they're on Earth among people. He said that there have been, at the very least, 4 EBE or alien species visiting Earth for thousands of years. So he held a high public office in the 60s during the Cold War in Canada, and he claimed, and I quote, that he had learned for certain about the existence of aliens during his time in the military. High-ranking soldier that just before death showed some pictures and admitted that they're on Earth, and you can find that video on YouTube. It's extremely popular, so I decided because of that I'm not going to cover it here. Anyways, in support of his words, the 90-year-old ex-minister spoke about one incident that occurred in 1961. Now, this is the part on howandwise.com that really got my attention, because he said when Canada noticed a group of roughly 50 unidentified flying objects moving from the Soviet Union at the time, now Russia, to Europe, it sparked their attention. Then, this group of objects suddenly went to the North Pole and then disappeared. Now, of course, at the time they had the technology to be able to track these UFOs or any type of aircraft flying within anywhere on Earth. They were able to track it. Then Hellyer noted that the investigation of this incident lasted 3 years and unequivocally showed that it was the activity to make sure that people would not use nuclear weapons. Then all of a sudden the Canadian government covered it up. So according to Hellyer, these EBEs actually have been living on Earth for thousands of years, and they look very similar to humans. Again, this has to do with the Nordic species I've spoken about before. There is a federation of these people, and they have rules. One of them is that they don't interfere with our affairs unless they are invited. Now, this falls in line with a lot of things that a lot of former soldiers and intelligence officers who coincidentally died when they got too close to exposing things that seem to be true, pockets of truth, let's call them. This is identical to what they've said. Again, howandwise.com, former Secretary of Defense of Canada noted that these extraterrestrials are not aggressive and have a huge stock of knowledge. However, according to him, guests from other planets don't want to share their knowledge with people yet because they are afraid that Earthlings would use them for wars and not for good purposes. But I think initially when there was the invasion of Iraq and Afghanistan in the early 2000s, I think it was to push a much bigger agenda. Now, yes, okay, sure, a strategic military agenda to expand the United States control, yes, that's one of them. But I also think that major countries like US, China, Russia, Israel, and maybe a couple others are fighting and vying for control of the Middle East because they're trying to crack the code that seems to put humanity in a state of constant regurgitation and constant amnesia. It's like every 2,000-3,000 years we forget what the hell we did 2,000 years before that. There's an insurmountable sign that we had some type of knowledge. Stonehenge, pyramids, or the pyramids being found underwater, Atlantis, pyramids being found in Europe, the pyramids being found hidden underneath icebergs in the Antarctic. Something went on that utilized the building of these pyramids that created the ability to either use these pyramids as a source of energy, as a source to communicate with other beings or other entities in maybe different dimensions, maybe in different realms within this dimension. It could have been used for many different things, a bunch of different theories as well. Okay, but the question becomes, what if the pyramids and ancient monolithic sites throughout northern Africa and the Middle East have actually given humanity insight to a forgotten civilization? Humans are brainwashed, or ISBEs are brainwashed using extreme electronic force in order to maintain Earth's population in state of perpetual amnesia. Further population controls are installed through the use of long-range electronic thought control mechanisms. These stations are still in operation and they are extremely difficult to attack or destroy, even for the domain, which will not maintain a significant military force in this area until a later date. The world, or the Earth that we live on, is one big kinetic machine that just keeps operating in a cyclical manner. This is a form of brainwash. Maybe not in the traditional way that we know it, and maybe the reason why we don't know this as the traditional form of brainwashing is because we've maybe been taught to think that the standard definition of brainwashing is something entirely different than what these beings that have put us on this planet and enslaved us really is. Now, again, this might go back to the Anunnaki theory, which is that they enslaved us and they want us to keep looking for gold. The thing about all of this is that there's so much distortion amongst the different truths of our past that we can't figure it out. And a lot of people think, okay, when we die, maybe we'll figure it out because our soul will understand and this and that. But if these literal, mechanical, I guess you could say, machines or mechanisms of energy that constantly put us in a state of amnesia are being used, it's hard to look for the truth when there's so much BS wrapped around it. And we're living in a time today where we don't even know what's going on the other side of the world at this time is true. Imagine what we knew what was going on the earth millions of years ago. And so I think this is the constant regurgitation of the soul. When they talk about people dying and being given the option to come back to earth in a different body, but you don't remember your previous life. This could have to do with the Akashic record. This could explain everything. This could literally explain everything and explain why civilizations have been distorting information being passed down from the beginning. You might then ask, okay, what the hell, what's the beginning? Well, that's the problem. We don't know what the beginning is because we've been in a state of amnesia, or we've been forgetting things, or in a state of massive dementia for so long.